So this is Brookes University B on the Berkshire station. Nearest the camera, Stanford University, the Island Challenge Cup. Go. Hear the energy and the effort and the grunt at that early stage of the race. It's a little stray out from Brookes University B on the Berkshire station, but as they come off Temple Island, looks like the Americans have had a very fast start there. Not much in it, but the Americans out sharply, aggressively.
And that's what you want in this boat type. So the 8, the fastest boat that we have on the water, you need to get it from standstill to maximum speed as fast as you possibly can. Once it's there, the difference between that maximum speed and cruising speed is not actually that different. So the idea now, what these both crews will be having is, how do we transition from that high start pace to getting something that's really high and sustainable down the course?
Yeah, who can settle into that rhythm quickest? I don't think that question's been answered yet.
Well, I can see the flags are still picking up, so this wind looks like it's building throughout the morning. Stanford have taken a little bit more of a lead, about a third of a length. It just looks a little bit more lively to me, a little bit longer, and they're just keeping that rate a bit higher for longer.
Yeah, Stanford University there, backing up what you've just said, Cameron, as we hit the action live. Stretched ahead. Conditions, you mentioned the wind. I think we were due a southwesterly wind today, and that's in contrast to yesterday, where we had quite a helpful tailwind and we saw some really fast times put down. But today a bit more challenging. The race is potentially a bit slower, a bit longer in that sense.
Yes, it would be longer in duration. So if you were planning a sort of 6 minutes race, it might be 6.5, almost 7 minutes races for those smaller boat types. And in rowing, it's so important to row the conditions well. So in that fast tailwind like we had yesterday, you want to be getting the blades in really sharp and moving nice and quickly on it. In the headwind, we want to make sure that we're getting really good distance per stroke, not wasting anything. And if that boat speed dies, that's a really big thing to try and pick that back up in the heavy headwind.
This is Brookes University B that you can see shifting through the picture on the Berkshire station, and then let's have a look at Stanford University. And in the bow seat, Julia Braz, Heather Schmidt, Kaya Costello, Fiona Mooney, Nora Goodville, Annabelle Backman, Bree Perry, and there in the stroke seat, Alice Baker with Rachel Miller barking the instructions, looking very intent, the cocks.
And a lovely shot of that Brookes boat on the right-hand side of your picture. Brookes this year, we've talked about the programme many times. I just think it's incredibly impressive. So I think there's almost 100 athletes, excluding the national team. 94 athletes from Brookes University here at the regatta. So well done to them, such strength in depth. And we must remember, this is their B crew, in parentheses, and they're still within touching distance, within a length or so of Stanford University from the USA.
Yeah, the wildlife need to get out of the way. I think they just about got out of the way, but that's not going to have helped Brookes. The wildlife having to float out and take fairly drastic action to get out of the way of the path of that Brookes boat. Doesn't help, does it?
No, the geese are not particularly welcome when racing is on for sure. But outdoor sport, that's the beauty of these, the 1 versus 1 racing, the knockout format. Anything can happen. You can be 5 lengths up and just a complete accident happens. And that's why you always have to stay so concentrated and focused on every single stroke. Beautiful shot of that Stanford hull. You can appreciate that white Canadian Hudson just perching out of the water. And what you want in that boat is to make sure that it's as high out of the water as it possibly can. So you can see in the bow seat, Julia Braz doing a lovely job of just leading the way in, putting that oar in the water, picking the hull up out of the water, and really cutting through that water ahead of them.
She's studying bioengineering at Stanford University, Julia Braz, who you can see there. It's got to be useful for rowing. Bioengineering.
Incredible. All the best do it. And Brookes, to me, look as though they've had a real nice lift here. Lovely shot there of those bow side blades, the oar sticking out to the left-hand side if you're facing the boat. Really nice synchronicity, good timing,
It's Kate McNulty, you can see there in the bow seat for Oxford Brookes. You'll be aware that this race is just about over unless something extremely dramatic happens in the final few strokes in front of stewards. The finish line looms into sight, and Stanford University will progress through in front of stewards, which is raucous now, absolutely rammed full to the gunnels at stewards as we approach lunchtime. And more than a length victory for the American boat in the Island Challenge Cup. Oxford Brookes University B over the line and will bow out at this point going into the weekend.